Hey everyone, welcome to Marvel Explained. Today we're following the story of one of the most vaguely powerful Spider-Men across the Spider-Verse. He is essentially, what if Spider-Man was more like Batman? I really like this suit, and I can't believe it hasn't been featured in more mainstream Spider-Man media. And the concept is really interesting. So let's get into the story. We see the amazing Spider swinging through New York City, saying how this world seems too good to be true, donning a dark blue and red suit along with a cape. That's much more sleek than the traditional Spider-Man costume. He spots Doc Ock trying to rob an armored truck, and Peter notices this suit somehow instills fear in his enemies. He easily takes out Otto, and it's apparent this entire world adores Spider-Man. Even the Daily Bugle seems to be in love with the Spider, but not all is what it seems. A few days earlier, our main Earth 616, Peter Parker, rescued this world's Spider-Man, who has a mansion with a secret cave underneath. Our Peter is tasked with donning the spider suit until this world's Peter healed. This story began with our 616, Peter Parker, having recently left the Daily Bugle to work at Horizon Labs. He happily works into the AM now that he's doing what he loves and doesn't have to worry about taking photographs to barely make ends meet. Meanwhile, Deadpool has snuck into the facility, along with a group of criminals. Their goal is to use Horizon Labs' interdimensional portal to find a world where they can easily take as much as they want. The only problem is the portal uses brainwaves to tune the frequency of parallel realities, and currently this process is fatal to the ordinary human brain. This is why these criminals chose to hire Wade, to use his brain, which constantly heals itself, to find a suitable universe. While they have Wade hooked up, the henchmen capture a Dr. Banner. They put a gun to Banner's head, and as you can probably guess, this doesn't go well for them. Banner turns into the Hulk, and mayhem follows. This is when Peter joins the fight as Spider-Man, and they very easily take out the goons. Their battle causes the portal to overload, which leads to a bright flash of light, and they're suddenly transported to the interior of Parker Technologies. On the floor, there are two Deadpools connected to the portal, one red and one green. This is where we meet the Spider, who's injured and confused. Banner explains they must have been transported to a parallel reality where similar criminals use this green Deadpool to activate the portal. However, for some reason, there's no counterpart to Hulk. Banner tasks Peter with taking care of his variant, who leads him to the Spider Car, which is all black and has a white spider emblem on the top. They make their way to the Web, which is essentially the Batcave, and it's filled with suits, vehicles, and mementos of the Spider's defeated villains. We cut to Rhino running away with stolen goods. As the Spider cracks some jokes to Rhino's confusion, Peter realizes this world's Spider doesn't banter with his enemies. Rhino throws a safe at the Spider, which he web pulls back, knocking down Rhino. The dust clears, and Rhino very quickly gives up. Peter is in shock, and Rhino goes on to say the Spider is the one who took out Thanos and Annihilus, a Fantastic Four villain with cosmic powers who's essentially immortal. The Spider even went head-to-head with the world-devouring Galactus. Rhino then pleads with the authorities to take him away. Back at the Web, Peter explains he needs to get back to his own world, but learns that the Spider has no one else to call for help. In this world, he is the only superhero, and has single-handedly defeated Earth's greatest threats. Variants of Earth 616's heroes exist, but they have no powers. This is a world where Reed Richards is just a scientist, and Tony Stark is just a billionaire philanthropist. The Spider recognizes that Peter needs to get back to his world, and begins to lead him down the web before he falls down. Peter lets him rest and agrees to stay for a few more days. The next day, he goes to Parker Technologies and speaks with his secretary, who mentions he has a confirmed dinner date with Mary Jane Watson, as well as a symphony he will attend with Gwen Stacy. So it seems like this world's Peter is kind of seeing MJ and Gwen at the same time. We also learn that Deadpool and his counterpart called Deathwish escaped the Parker facility and beat two police officers with churros. Peter goes on to learn more about Parker Technologies and their interdimensional research. This is where he discovers that this world's Peter had been keeping tabs on him, as well as many other spider-powered beings from different dimensions. Before he can investigate further, he notices an impossible picture on the desk. Peter then makes his way to the Parker mansion and meets his Uncle Ben alive and well. He wastes no time hugging him, and Ben reveals he already knows the whole situation. Peter details how his uncle died, and Ben explains that he just barely survived that same bullet, and was determined to help guide and train his Peter as the Amazing Spider. Uncle Ben then drops some knowledge on Peter, saying, "With great power comes a responsibility to stay powerful," to which Peter laughs at. We see a very sad-looking Aunt May pour some tea, and Ben explains she never got used to Peter having his powers. Then Peter asks Ben who he thinks this world's Peter will end up with. This is when Ben explodes, calling MJ and Gwen gold diggers, who wouldn't care about Peter if it weren't for the money. Peter begins to feel woozy, and asks how the Amazing Spider is so powerful anyway. As Ben creepily says he and Peter are eager to show him. Peter then falls unconscious as Ben stands over him. Our Spider-Man wakes up in a chair, hooked up to a machine. He realizes the spider was so injured because he was the one who summoned Peter to this dimension. The spider would study spider beings from different worlds and bring them here. We see a river of lifeless spider variants, who all trusted the spider the same way Peter did. The spider explains that he's not murdering, he's simply absorbing the powers and life force of spider variants, which goes to show just how lost he is. Peter says the spider put him back in his suit so he wouldn't have to face himself, literally. The spider says it's his responsibility to stay strong and save his world no matter the cost. In a rage, the spider hits Peter out of his restraints, as Uncle Ben scolds him for being dumb and weak. Peter knows he can't defeat this variant. He'd be fighting against the power of 100 spider beings. Instead, he tries appealing to his heart. He knows this Peter was trained to be this way, stoic and ruthless to no end, but asks if he even feels like a hero anymore. While Peter tries waking himself up, we see Ben grab the power absorbers and run toward Peter from behind. The spider essentially pulls a Darth Vader and gets in the way, sacrificing himself. Ben is left holding the power-drained Peter Parker in his arms. In Peter's narration, he says miraculously the spider is still breathing and will wake up in a jail cell. However, his fate would be much more complicated. Peter walks away from the Parker mansion and for the time being continues on as this world's Peter Parker, working with Dr. Banner to create a new pan-dimensional translocator. He tells Bruce about what happened with the amazing spider, and Banner explains if they get their machine to work, he's staying in this world. For some reason in this world, Bruce Banner can't turn into the Hulk. This dimension essentially cured him. Meanwhile, Deadpool and Death Wish are having the time of their lives. For now, Peter goes on to fight crime as the Amazing Spider, even though he's ashamed to be wearing the suit of a spider killer. He's glad no major villain has stepped up to him, as we get a glimpse of this world's Doctor Doom, who dons a red cloak instead. And Peter's nightly patrols are pretty boring, since most common criminals immediately give up when they see the spider, and Peter just wants to go home. This is not the end of this story. It gets kind of complicated, involving Doctor Strange, a Hulk variant, Hell, and the origin of Ghost Spider. To sum it up, the Amazing Spider ends up becoming Ghost Spider, which I know a lot of you might recognize from the Marvel Spider-Man game. I'll go through that whole story in a different video, but for now, we'll end this at the downfall of the Amazing Spider. Thank you guys very much for watching. I hope you have a great day or night wherever you are, and I'll see you next time.